What's up, guys? The UFC card just wrapped up, and what an amazing card. It lived up to the hype, definitely delivered. And I don't know about you guys, but I had a pay-per-view feeling the entire time. I mean, before the card and during when the card was going on, it just felt like it was a pay-per-view, right? It felt like it was going to be UFC 253, which is going to be next week. And so many finishes, so many great fights, controversial wins. We had a draw in there too. I mean, we had everything on this card. But we are going to start with that main event. Colby Covington defeats Tyron Woodley by 5th round TKO due to rib injury, but he was dominating the fight. I mean, it wasn't like a controversial, oh, Woodley was winning, but he got injured kind of thing. He lost 4 rounds straight, and on the scorecards, Woodley even lost the 4th round by 10-8, right? So that means that Woodley has lost his last 14 rounds in his last 3 fights. And in each fight, he has lost at least one of those rounds by 10-8. I mean, he was regarded as one of the greatest welterweights of all time. He might still be, right? Might still be top 5 welterweights of all time. But to go from that, defeating Demian Maia, Darren Till, Stephen Thompson, Robbie Lawler, to now losing 3 fights in a row. Before he lost to Kamaru Usman, he only had 3 losses in his entire career. Now he has 3 losses in a row. Craziness, man. He doubled his losses in his last 3 fights, and Colby just dominated him. First round looked like it was going to be pretty competitive as Woodley was being a bit aggressive, but his shot selection and his toolbox just doesn't have a lot of tools, right? He keeps doing the same stuff he does in every single fight, and everybody's just figuring him out at this point. Big right hand is everything he throws. Going forward, going backward, it's that big right hand and that right low kick that deliver damage, and the things he just commits with a lot, right? When he was aggressive on Colby Covington, like I was calling for in my prediction video, if he goes forward, what he's going to throw? I've never seen him throw knees going forward, and I've never seen him throw uppercuts going forward. It's always right overhand or right hook. So he went forward through a right hook. What did Colby do? Took him to the ground. Beautiful takedown, beautiful double leg takedown, straight under the right hand, got him to the ground and completely changed Woodley to his defensive shell. Right, Woodley came out aggressive. After the takedown, he was rarely ever aggressive again. And that just shows he goes back to his instincts. When things get tough, he just does what he does best. And that is moving back, trying to counter with the big right hand. And that just never really came for him. He rarely landed clean with the right hand. There was that Superman punch off the cage at one point, but Colby took it very well. Colby has a very good chin. Not only that, people have to give his striking skills, technically, have to give his striking skills respect. Throwing a lot of kicks in this one. High kicks, side kicks to the knee, switching stances and throwing body kicks all over the place, which seemed to take the wind out of Woodley for a bit. And imagine if Colby had power. Like, imagine this guy can hurt you with all these shots, like, badly. I don't think anybody would be able to beat him, but you got to exchange it. He has the cardio. He's the cardio king, and because of that, he's not going to have that kind of power. But not much else to say about this fight. I mean, he did bring in something what Dustin Poirier does. Now, I don't know if he necessarily copied Poirier, because they used to train together, but he would throw that switch stance combination that Poirier throws at everybody. Throws his power left hand, switches to the opposite stance to load up for the big right hand, which is now his power hand, and he did connect on Woodley a few times with that. But it all came crashing down 4th round on. 4th round was a 10-8 round for Colby, took it to the ground and landed some horrendous ground and pound shots on Woodley, cut him up and everything. And then in the 5th round, for some reason Woodley got injured. I don't know what it is. It seemed kind of similar what happened with Pettis against Poirier. Remember when Pettis also had a rib injury when he fought Dustin Poirier? Poirier had a body lock on him. Pettis was trying to turn, and I guess maybe the pressure of the squeeze, as well as Pettis turning into Poirier at the same time, all that pressure may have just popped a rib or something. Something like that may have happened with Woodley as well. He had that guillotine choke, but Colby was sticking on him and trying to turn to the other side. And maybe there's just so much pressure, something happened there. I hope he's okay. I hope Woodley doesn't stay out too long, because I don't think he should retire. That narrative came out right after. I don't think he should. He lost to Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns, and Colby Covington. They're literally the 3 best guys in this division. Yes, he got dominated, but let's take a step back in competition before we think about retiring. Fight a Vicente Luque or fight a Rafa dos Anjos or something like that. If he starts losing to those guys and then fights someone outside the top 15 and loses to him, then we could talk about, retiring. Woodley is still fighting similar. He's not fighting worse that much. He's not fighting that much better. And the excuses came out right away too. People automatically give out this weird excuse for Woodley that he's not the Woodley of old and he's not fighting like he used to. Where's his aggression? He's not coming forward and throwing punches, when Woodley's never fought like that. I mean, only in, 2 fights has he ever been aggressive? I can only think Jay Huron and Robbie Lawler, and Lawler allowed Woodley to be aggressive because he gave him ground. Nobody does that to Woodley, and because of that, he always gets walked down. If you give him ground, he'll take it, but he's not going to force it on you. Every single fight besides Jay Herron and Robbie Lawler, Tyron Woodley has always been on the back foot, has always been moving backwards and very tentative, looking to counter, being efficient with the right hand, right low kick, and that's pretty much it. Some takedowns here and there, but he only has 6 takedowns in his entire UFC career combined. He's only been successful with 6 takedowns. So I don't really know where that narrative, where that excuse is coming from, because you can look back 7 years when he fought Jake Shields. He fought the same way. He lost by split decision because neither of them were doing anything, and they were kind of just standing in front of each other, just grappling against the cage. And Woodley didn't let his quote-unquote hands go, you know? And then when you look when he fought Rory McDonald, who set the blueprint of how to defeat Tyron Woodley, he lost because of how he's losing today. And that was 6 years ago. So if you go back and look at those fights, you'll see the same Tyron Woodley, and you don't see this excuse that people are putting out there. Kamaru Usman, Gilbert Burns, and Colby Covington took Rory McDonald's game plan to another level. Rory set the blueprint. These guys know how Tyron Woodley fights, and they're just dominating him even worse. That's really all it is. Because Tyron Woodley has not changed that much for the last, 7, 8 years, people are starting to figure him out. It's kind of what happened to Anthony Pettis, too. I mean, is it ironic they're from the same camp and they're not really changing anything about their games? The only shocking thing from Tyron Woodley, to be honest, is the Darce choke that he got on Darren Till, right? Other than that, just think about it. Have you seen something he has done that has wowed you or surprised you or show some kind of huge evolution in his game? Like, honestly, look at the past fights. Maybe I'm missing something, but I really haven't seen it. Yeah, he dropped Stephen Thompson a few times, but he knocked him down the same way he knocks down everybody else. Waits on you to enter on him. You get aggressive. He counters you with an efficient, precise right hand. But these guys like Usman, Burns, and Covington are taking it away from him, right? They're not getting in that range, and if they do, they're clinching up with him. Stephen Thompson doesn't have that option, right? He's not going to clinch up with Tyron Woodley. So he's always in striking range, close or far away. And if he's in close range, he's probably going to get outgunned. The same thing with Darren Till, really. I mean, Darren Till's not going to try to clinch up with Tyron Woodley that much. But when you have a guy who can wrestle like a Burns can wrestle pretty well, and Usman and Covington, they have a lot of options in that close range. If they want to enter close, they throw some big punch, and then they go right into the clinch, go to the takedown. And that neutralizes Tyron Woodley's game completely. So who would I like to see these two fight next? I want to see Tyron Woodley fight maybe Vicente Luque or RDA. Take a step down in competition. A lot of the other guys are fighting, but he's in a very bad place. Well, first of all, he's going to be out for some time, and I can absolutely see the UFC making Tyron Woodley a stepping stone for the younger guys, the prospects. And who is that prospect? Probably Khamzat Chimaev. I can see that plan from a mile away. Khamzat Chimaev defeats Demian Maia, which is most likely going to happen. And then they put him up against Tyron Woodley, the former champ, this and that. They're going to promote it as such. He'll probably dominate Tyron Woodley. Then we have, the second biggest star in the welterweight division. And you can possibly put him up against Jorge Masvidal and make some super fight. I can see that plan 100% happening. And as for Colby Covington, there are some options for him. Well, he can wait it out for the championship fight, or he could fight Leon Edwards, or he could fight Jorge Masvidal. Those are pretty much his options here. Waiting it out would be risky. I think they would give it to him before they give it to Leon Edwards, given his name and the fact that he did have a competitive fight with Kamaru Usman, and that fight is bigger on paper, bigger on the pay-per-view too. Leon Edwards really has to do something to get his name out there. Unfortunately, as sad as it is, he's so good, but people are just not paying attention to him. But here's the thing. Colby wants money too, right? He wants the big money fight, and that would be Jorge Masvidal, who would probably take the fight as well. That is the biggest money fight they could put on in the welterweight division currently, unless Nick Diaz comes back and fights Jorge. That would be different. If that happens, then Colby could probably wait it out or fight Leon Edwards. But to be honest, I think the priority is to fight Jorge Masvidal, secure a title shot, because even if Edwards defeats Wonderboy or something, they're going to give it to Colby Covington, 100%. If Nick Diaz inserts his name and fights Jorge, or Nate Diaz fights Jorge, then I would like to see Colby fight Leon Edwards, even though I don't think that's going to happen. And then we go to the co-main event, a draw between Donald Cerrone and Nico Price. This fight was pretty weird. Eye pokes and headbutts. One of the most foul fights I've seen in recent years. How many eye pokes did Nico Price hit Donald Cerrone with? It had to have been at least 3 of them. At least 3 times the ref had to stop the fight. And then there were a few times where Donald Cerrone literally rushed with his head and headbutt Nico Price. One time even shook him up a little bit. But ultimately, it was just a phone booth fight. They stood in front of each other. Nico Price landed early on Donald Cerrone, the slow starter. Great elbows, great overhand right that started it all. And some good knees in the clinch. But for the rest of the fight, he seemed pretty slow. right? Cerrone looked a little bit faster with his hands, and he wasn't landing that precisely after the first round. He was trying to let his hands go, trying to put together combinations, but it didn't look like he was throwing the most power shots like he was in the first round. Maybe he was trying to last all 3 rounds and not get taken to the ground and get his back taken, which did happen in the third. But Cerrone was getting ahead because of his speed advantage and because he was landing down the center, where Nico Price was throwing looping punches all over the place. And you gotta love his style, man. I mean, he's a guy that looks to win through collisions, right? Just crash against the opponent and hopefully he gets out on top. But I don't like the majority draw thing. I understand it, but if one judge is gonna give the fight to a fighter and the other 2 scored a draw, that fighter should win, right? It just kind of makes sense in a way, but I do understand the majority draw thing because some judges obviously are not the most competent. I saw the fight as a draw as well. And who these 2 should be fighting next? I know Dana wants Cerrone to retire, and I won't be opposed to that either. He just wants to fight anybody. Nico Price is outside of top 15, and they fought pretty evenly. And Cerrone's slowing down. He's taking a lot of damage, man. Cerrone at one point had an iron chin. I mean, nobody was able to drop him for so long, right? He would get hit, and nobody was able to drop the guy. It took body shots to drop him. But after I think it was Jorge Masvidal, he just can't take a punch like he used to. Jorge knocked him out twice, pretty much. Dern destroyed him. Conor McGregor annihilated what was left of him, and now Nico Price hurt him early on, but then just couldn't connect, and that was the problem. If he was connecting a lot more with those power shots, man, I don't know if Cerrone would have survived. So I could see retirement for him. If he's going to keep fighting, let's do the rematch with Nico Price. And then we go to the big one. The guy who stole the night. Khamzat Chimaev knocks out Gerald Meerschaert in 17 seconds into the fight. Wow, I did not see this coming. Nobody did. Everybody thought Gerald Meerschaert was a better striker. Everybody thought if it stayed on the feet, he would have the advantage. Well, he started backing up right away. You know, some people were thinking that he's just waiting for the shot, waiting for the takedown. I don't think that's a good game plan to do because I don't think he would have stopped the takedown. I know he would go for the guillotine and all that stuff, but Chimaev has shown power before, right? He will strike with you. If you look at his past fights before the UFC, there are a lot of fights where he literally just stayed standing the entire fight and delivered with power. I don't see that as a good game plan. If he just thought that Chimaev wouldn't strike with him, it completely backfired, like 100%. I didn't think Chimaev would knock him out like that, but I definitely think he would throw strikes at him and not just be one-dimensional with takedowns, because he never really was like that, right? He did it with the last 2 fights because it was easy. But with Gerald Meerschaert, he probably, saw an opportunity. Gerald was just being very defensive, moving back, wasn't throwing anything at Chimaev, which he should have done. He should have been assertive in the cage and went forward, pushed Chimaev back, and take away any threat of his from striking to wrestling. But him backing up puts him in all sorts of danger, from wrestling to grappling to striking, everything. And because his back's to the cage, he can't really pull on punches as easily, right? So his biggest countering ability, he took it away from himself as well. And Chimaev just landed that right hook, right straight punch, whatever he threw. And the angle seemed to have messed with Meerschaert, where he looked to defend it, but he looked to defend a punch that was coming wide, looping, but the punch came down the center. So it came out wide initially and then just found its way to the center and caught Meerschaert clean on the chin, knocked him out cold, 1 punch. And this fight, it exposed it, right? He showed it before, like I said. He showed it before. He showed this kind of power before. But now all the UFC fighters know you got to respect his power because he can put your lights out with 1 punch. And given he's a welterweight, right? He's a welterweight, fought at middleweight. He's much smaller than these guys. I believe he walks around, in the 190s, 180s? Extremely small for the division. And that lines him up right for Demian Maia. As we speak, Maia's looking away to get out of his contract. He's like, what did I sign up for? What is this? Who's this guy? That's not Khamzat Chimaev. Who's that? Maia's just about to roid up. Like, he's just going to take all a bunch of stuff because whatever happens, the results, he's going to be happy with it regardless. If he doesn't get caught, he fights Chimaev and he has a chance. If he does get caught, he's happy either way because he gets out of the fight. Oh man, that's going to be a very bad fight for Maia. Unless he's able to take down Chimaev somehow, then he has a big chance of winning, but he's not winning on the feet. Chimaev is a better technical striker, and the difference is he has so much more power. He's much faster as well, and that's a huge thing that happened in the Gerald Meerschaert fight, how fast he shot in that right hand. I do not think Maia is going to deal with Chimaev that well. Obviously, that's Chimaev's next fight. Can't wait to watch it. After that fight, he's fighting the top dogs of that division. I mean, because Maia's number 7, and you know the UFC's trying to build his name up because his name is brewing. People are taking notice. I mean, my brother, who doesn't really watch MMA that much, he even knows him now, which is crazy that he's only 9-0. He's only 9-0, 26 years old, and he's already looked at as one of the biggest stars of the welterweight division. In all of his 3 UFC fights, he has only been hit twice. Think about that. 3 fights, he has only been hit twice. That's some crazy stuff, man. And then we go to one of the most questionable moments of the night. Mackenzie Dern defeats Randa Marcos by first round submission. Dern looked very lean, man. Usually looks like she's overweight, and she definitely does come in overweight a lot in her weight cuts. I mean, she missed weight so many times, missed weight by 10 pounds at one point. But here, she took it very serious. I don't know if it's the whole thing with the baby that she had and maybe more motivation as a mother now, and she's taking the weight cut a lot more serious. She said her training camp this time was the most intense she's ever had. And it showed. I mean, she looked lean and healthy. So coming out there, started swinging at Marcos. Big right hand, throw a kick and slipped. And that's when Marcos decided, 30 seconds into the fight where neither of us are sweating, I'm just going to dive at your guard. I'm going to follow you to the ground when you slipped, and I'm going to fight you in your guard. I know it happened earlier tonight, but Mackenzie Dern is literally the best submission artist, the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist in women's MMA. And Randa Marcos is a vet. She's been fighting the UFC for a while. To make that kind of drastic error, I don't know, man. I mean, we're talking about Andre Sukumtot levels here, you know? Yeah, and then eventually just got outworked for the most part. Mackenzie Dern went for the triangle choke. Randa Marcos was sitting on it. Dern tried to get her arm under so she could try to sweep it over, probably go for an arm bar or something like that in the process. But Marcos was just sitting on her arm and sitting away from the triangle. So it looked like Dern didn't really have anything going there. And then she went for the slick omoplata sweep. I mean, she jumped right into the omoplata off her back like that and able to get on top of Marcos and eventually able to get that armbar. Clean win for Mackenzie Dern. Amazing win for her. Mackenzie Dern's number 15. So Angela Hill would be an interesting fight. Hill's coming off a loss. She's ranked above Dern, though. That's a fight I'd like to see. Or Tisha Torres. That would be interesting as well. The more doable fight would probably be against Angela Hill. So I say that one for her. But we have some interesting finishes early on, too. Jessica Rose Clark looks super powerful, man. And her strength and conditioning regimen seemed to have worked here. She looks solid, powerful, strong in the clinch, landing knees, and got that TKO victory very well. I missed some of the other fights, but I did see Rana Costa's knockout. He switched into southpaw, feeling out with his right hand, pawing out there, filling out the distance, through the left straight, left high kick combination. And the left straight was only to get Noose to lean to the outside, right? Slip on the outside of the left straight, which is only going to make him lean into the left high kick. Perfect technical work from Randy Costa. And I do have to catch up with the rest of the fights. I had some breakdowns I was doing during all this. So I hope you guys enjoy the night. Hope you guys enjoy the fights. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And if you did, make sure to thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. My next video is going to be the podcast, which I had to postpone due to some health issues I've been having for the last few days. You know, doing the podcast takes a lot of time. And this podcast is probably going to be the last podcast before I start doing them weekly and live. I'm still going to have the questions up. There's going to be some more interesting things you guys can do. So while I'm doing it live, you guys can absolutely ask me questions. Like, I could look at what you guys are saying. You could just comment your questions. But I'm still going to do the whole community tab thing where you guys ask your questions under my comment in that tab. So I can't wait to try that out after UFC 253. So I cannot wait to see you guys there.